Good morning, West Coast. And what time is it in the rest of the world? Afternoon in Europe. Good morning. I'm so cold. I guess this is winter in LA, but my house is so cold. I just keep turning the heat up higher and higher and higher. Good morning. You guys, I'm having so much fun posting all the content. It's always fun when I have a ton of content to post. It's harder when, I think that's why everyone then goes, everything is so random sometimes when I post, especially on TikTok, and that's basic 3 a.m. here. Where are you? But yeah, I think I sometimes get really random when I don't have stuff on my phone to post, because I'm like, well, what do I do? And what do people want to see? And I can do lots of things. I can cook some stuff. I can show off some clothes. I can do some makeup. So I think that's where sometimes the stuff I post gets very random. Yes, it is cold. It's cold. I'm sure everyone else in the world is telling me to not talk about being cold because it is much colder in a lot of other places in the world. But I'm a baby. I'm a California girl, and this is cold to me. We love the random. I'm glad you guys like the random content, and I'm really enjoying engaging in all the comments with everybody. It's been really fun. So thank you guys. And I'm drinking my coffee. I'll start with that. Good morning. For those that it's the morning, I hope you are drinking your coffee. I put a lot of stuff in my coffee. One of these days I want to talk about all the stuff I put in my coffee, but I also need to understand. When you yeah, I put collagen in it, and I put this in it, I put that in it. But I need to be able to actually talk about it. So I put adaptogens and cocoa powder and collagen in my coffee, and it tastes really yummy. And I added some peppermint mocha because it's the holidays, guys. Okay, so this one is all about facing fear of failure or rejection, and I wanted to tiptoe into talking about directing, which I have to say you guys actually asked or submitted way more questions about the directing stuff, which surprised me, than that facing our fears. So I'll definitely do one about directing. For those that know, I have been trying to really have the courage to talk about my short film and to really have those tough conversations. And I think this will be a stepping stone to be able to do that. That's why I incorporate the directing in there. So I hope that's what we kind of continue to talk about, but I'm really happy to see how many questions came in about directing. And for those that are going to Orlando, I don't know what's been posted yet, but there's going to be a fun directing thing in the Orlando one. So it was kind of how I was like, let's do a day that's all about some really creative stuff. So I think that's not out yet. Let's see. Let me see. No, I can't tell. Is anybody know about the schedule? Is the schedule out for Orlando? Hello. Everyone's lagging. Someone's comments lagging. I'm like, yes, comments are very lagged. It's probably my internet. I don't know what's happening. So it must be out. Okay, good. It sounds like the schedule for Orlando's out, which has a directing workshop, which I'm really excited about, to pass on any knowledge that I've learned from all the people I've shadowed. So yes, stream it, release it. Thank you. They are very delayed. So yes. So I wanted to start this off with a quote. The only way to get rid of the fear of doing something is to go and do it. Go out and do it. I can't misquote the quote. So some of the questions that are some of the things that you guys answered about, have you ever faced a fear to pursue? What is wrong with me this morning? It's too early. My coffee's not hitting. Let me try again. Have you ever faced a fear to pursue something you love? And one of them was moving away from family for a job opportunity. It's really hard. I mean, I've been really lucky that my profession takes place in the state I was born in. I always admire actors that have to leave wherever they are in the world to come to LA, which luckily is not something that has to happen as much anymore these days because so much is done virtually for auditions, and so it allows people to not have to do that as much, that shift, but people still come to LA, and it's still kind of the go-to. But I do have to say, I've always admired people that have had to do that because it's really scary. I mean, you're starting your life over essentially. I experience it, I'm not going to do a comparison, experience it slightly just going from one city to the next with where I live, and just whether it's you're not getting to see your friends and your family, or you're having to find, weirdly enough, what shocked me was like the little things. Like find a new dry cleaners, find a new place you want to, like your new mail or post office, you find, the restaurants you like. And so it's really interesting, how much more multifaceted it is to move. So I applaud people that have ever had to move for a job and leaving their family and friends. It's really tough. So anyone out there that's doing that, I applaud you. I think I know a couple people in this community that have done that, and they're loving it, the ones I've talked to, so I hope that that's still continuing. Playing my saxophone in front of an audience despite a fear of being judged, performing in front of a crowd. This is a big one. I mean, I learned that early on, I think in school even, that I think public speaking is the #1 most feared thing. I'm not an expert, so don't quote me on that, but that's at least what I was told in school, and I believe it. I am scared. People always think because I'm an actor, I'm not afraid to public speak, and I'm petrified. It's much easier to pretend to play a different character and say someone else's lines than it is to get up on stage and whether it's play an instrument or give a speech. I remember I had to give a speech at a CARE conference once, and I was sweating, I was shaking, but I've always been reminded that people can't see it. Like, even though you're nervous, they really don't see it. I think some people do. But for the most part, if I can keep that in my mind, it helps me go, okay, like, who cares if I'm nervous? Let it be nervous, now go up and do the speech. So I applaud all those that do public speaking, and I know a lot of people that are really good at it. Like, they just know what to say and how to say it. Somebody just said also public speaking with people from the same age. I was petrified in school more than anything to talk amongst my peers. There's just... So it's a real thing, but we fight through it and we learn from it. I remember I had to give a speech once in junior high on Abraham Lincoln, and it was really good. I'm proud of that speech I gave. Reaching out to someone I was interested in working with despite the fear of rejection. That's huge. I get scared every time I have to send an email to somebody to ask to shadow, or if they have any advice for my career or anything like that. I get nervous, but I've realized I'm not doing anything wrong, and I think that helps. You're reaching out, and the worst they can say is no, but if you don't reach out at all, you'll never know. And sometimes my experience, if it's ever a no, you can follow up with, is there any advice you want to give, or any direction you want to point me in? There's always a follow-up that you can have after that, and if people just don't respond to you, then they just don't respond to you, But I would say on average, people will respond even if it's a no, and you can still have a follow-up, or just say thank you so much. I hope we get to work together someday, but it's not now. Yes, you can only try. You have to try. Pushing through the fear of boarding a plane so I can embrace my love for travel. Love this one. I used to get petrified, really not traveling and getting on a plane. I was never scared of that, but turbulence up in the air is just... Like, I think it's a control thing more than anything, because I do like to be up in a plane and fly. On a big plane, when there's really bad turbulence and I'm like just sitting there and I'm like, is it gonna stop? Is something I really don't enjoy. But congratulations for pushing through that fear. Travel, I think, is so important. So I'm very excited for you and all the adventures you're gonna go on. Starting to put my creativity out there online, although I was scared of online hate and bad comments. Block, baby. The thing is especially in art, especially in a public medium on an internet where people can hide behind a keyboard, there's going to be hate. There's going to be meanness. There's going to be stuff that has nothing to do with you, and I will fully never understand it. I'm sure psychologists do, but I am a huge advocate of blocking. Don't let that into your Don't let that into your entire psyche, because the truth is, you know, maybe they're just upset that you're putting your stuff out there and they're afraid themselves to do it. And so they're taking out that anger out on you. So try to just know putting your stuff out there is going to lead to criticism. And it's just part of putting our stuff out there these days. Anyone, anywhere around the world can say whatever they want. And it's impossible to not have it hurt our feelings. And so I am a huge advocate of blocking. It's just, if you have nothing nice to say, then why are you on my page? You know? So I just think that's really important for all of us to remember, that sometimes I think we go, oh no, I need to see the good and the bad. You don't. At least I used to do it. I'm like, okay, no, I need to, like, is it something that I did? Do I need to know? And I'm like, no, people are just being mean. But I'm very proud of you for putting it out there. It is scary. That hitting send on the email, hitting post on that thing that you're putting out there in the world to see and to judge is scary. So I applaud you. And I'm proud of you. I'm afraid of needles, but I pushed through the fear in order to start IVF. Yes. I don't relate to this. I've never been afraid of needles. I don't know why. Maybe when I was a kid, the first needle, that I didn't get scared or something. I don't know. But I definitely have friends that are. And so I'm proud of you for doing that. And just doing IVF in general is scary. You're pumping your body full of hormones. So I applaud you for even just taking that on. Stage fright in order to pursue my dreams of being a performer. Again, there's nothing better though than the stage fright is the feeling you feel right before. Well, I've never done stage, but have I done stage? I performed in front of people live. I think stage is like big Broadway. Never done that. But I just think that stage fright you feel, that a rush of adrenaline and anxiety you feel right before you're about to perform in front of people, it does, like, the aftermath of performing outweighs that every time. It's why people go back to it and back to it, and the stage fright doesn't matter, because the truth is doing a performance and being vulnerable and putting yourself out there in front of people, there's just something so rewarding about it, and so freeing. So push through that stage fright. I have faith in you. I promise you it'll be worth it, and we all feel it, so you're not alone. I had to do a speech at my sister's wedding and I was terrified, but it meant a lot to her, so I pushed through the fear. Same, and I get it. Not at my sister's, but at my best friend Chris's wedding. And you guys, I'm an actor. I can memorize lines. I really wanted it memorized and I couldn't. So I was the person, not everyone else, but I was the person that had my phone to read my speech at Chris's wedding, which I will never be able to live down in my own, head. But I get it. Again, public speaking, coming out to my friends and family, I applaud you and I'm proud of you for living in your truth. It's probably one of the scariest things. Trying to get my driver's license, so I had to overcome this fear during my driving lessons. I think you mean of driving. Driving can be scary, I get it. Being in LA, we're pretty aggressive here and you kind of have to be, so I feel like it's just a part of life here. But I definitely have seen friends from out of state, out of country that, especially out of country, if you're driving on the different side of the car, different side of the road, all that kind of stuff, it's a whole different element, but it can be scary. Driving can be scary. It also makes sense. It's like also the most valid fear because don't they say like car accidents are like one of the worst things? What is that? I was just saying about car accidents. Like we get so afraid of all these other things, like flying and all these, but really, car accidents and stuff during driving is actually the worst. Not to put that into your brain. There is a freedom in having a driver's license, but I will say, the video of me that I just posted of me in the metro in Paris. I love public transit. We don't have it in LA. I never grew up with it. I love it in New York. I love it in London. I love it in Paris. Everywhere I go, I love the public transit. There's just something so nice about it. I don't know how people feel about it that actually have to deal with it, but I love it. Traveling alone so I could travel to a convention. Congratulations. I always try to encourage as many people to do this. Traveling alone is scary. And especially I think as women, it's even scarier, but you do it, and as long as you're safe, and you usually make friends along the way, and it's just a beautiful experience. And there's something beautiful about it too, because usually when you travel with people, you're having to all plan things together, but also different people have different things they want to do. And when you're by yourself, you also get to kind of explore the world all through your eyes and do what you want when you want. So there's a beauty to that too, and a freedom. Making the decision to change my degree, congrats. Again, one of those scary things. Put my fear aside to change my job. Again, the job thing is, I applaud everyone. That's especially the further you're into it, the harder obviously it is to make that shift. It's like moving to town. You're basically these things, whether it's moving to another city, leaving your family and friends, changing your job after years of being on it, changing your profession like while you're in school, and you've dedicated all this time and energy and money to studying a certain thing. I think they're really scary things. They're really, really, really scary things, and I applaud everyone out there that does them, because they're an entire life shift. But I will say, like, there's nothing worse than wanting to do something and not doing it because of fear of failure, or fear of it not turning out the way you wanted it to. Just to like put it out there, like, most things don't turn out the way we want them to, because we have zero control. Like, all we control is like what we can do in moment to moment. But really, like, the world's gonna kind of decide, the universe is kind of gonna decide things for us. But I'm more an advocate of not wanting to live in regret for not doing something. 10 years from now going, gosh, if I had just done that thing, I wonder what would happen. I wonder how things would be. Just do it. Yeah, someone just said, just do it. Someone said, I think once we push through the fear of the unknown, the result always surprises us. Self-belief is everything. So true. Say it. Yes. That's also what I love, guys. Like, I am not an expert or like the person that knows all this. That's why I like asking you guys questions, and I love it when you guys actually give me your insight too, of the things you've experienced and gone through, and the lessons you've learned, and things that I can pass on to people in these WeChats, because I think it's just really important. And it felt very great to hear in Paris how many people really these are resonating with them. I'm just reading a couple of the comments before I move on to the next to talk about directing. Trying our best is the only thing we can do. That's the way to frame it too. Oh, see, I was tired when I started this. I also wanted to talk about like this fear of failure. I don't like the word failure. I struggle with saying it because I just don't think anything is a failure. I think if we can try to also reframe our minds into saying, like, it's a lesson. What did I learn from this? Things may not go the way we planned, but what did I learn from this? Even something as simple as, like, you might go on stage to give a speech or give a performance, and it doesn't go the way you wanted. And you go, okay, well, what didn't work that night? How can I learn from this? Nothing, in my opinion, is a failure. It's a lesson to be learned, or there's something you can always take from it. So I really don't like the word failure, because I just think it should be removed from the vocabulary. I don't think people should feel like failures. I don't think we should look at things that don't turn out the way we wanted as failures. Even something as like relationships. Like, I hear people say that sometimes, like, it was a failure, it was a waste of my time. And it's like, no, I don't think so. I think we all hopefully grow in relationships, whether it's knowing more what we want or need in a relationship, or what we learn a lot about ourselves in relationships too. So I just think reframing this idea of failure, I think, will help people also, move forward and have less fear. It's a little bump in the road on our journey in life. It's so true. All of my things that didn't go as planned, I can, obviously in hindsight, it's easier to look back at all of them and go, I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for those things that didn't go as planned. So just try to remove the word failure as well from your vocabulary, and I think that will help. Okay, so you guys had a lot of questions about directing. So the reason I brought up directing and the fears that we face, or fear of failure, I've got to come up with a different fear of things not going well. I need a new word. Is because directing was something that obviously I was extremely afraid of it not going well. I was also afraid that I was going to spend all this time, energy, and money, and in the end, not be good at it, or not like it as much as I thought I was going to like it. And because you just don't know until you try something too. So I think that was a huge factor as well. And I was really, really, really scared. I was determined. I was motivated. I felt like I had a lot of encouragement from the people I worked with, but I was really scared. And I kept kind of doing this thing because production got shut down a couple times on my short film because of the pandemic, and because the first time was because of the location that we lost, and then the second time was the pandemic. And I even was at times being like, is this the universe telling me I shouldn't do this? And I'm glad that I pushed through it. I'm so grateful. And I learned so much my 2 times directing. I know people also like, I've only done it twice. I've shadowed, I think, more than anyone I've ever heard of shadowing in the history of shadowing. I've shadowed more directors, that I keep in my head losing count, but it's a lot. And, I've learned a lot, and I can't wait to keep putting myself out there to get to direct something else. So I'll start, thank you for all your questions on directing, but questions about directing that you guys asked was it difficult to be vulnerable while telling the story in Herd? Absolutely. The interesting part was the vulnerability actually came more when it was done and it was ready to show people. Probably posting it on YouTube, which took so long to do, was probably the most vulnerable. Interestingly enough, it wasn't the creative process. It felt like, because it was always kind of contained. It was always a small group of people. It was always all of us really being able to have conversations. When you put things out there on a bigger scale, you're opening things up, as we know, to more criticism, more judgment, more feedback. And that's obviously scary. So anyways, that was, what is it? Was it difficult to be vulnerable? It was definitely difficult to be vulnerable. The directing decision that carried the most fear. Someone said, what is the directing decision that carried the most fear? What was it? It's interesting. There was more fear around, or anxiety around directing the short film, just because it wasn't a huge production of a ton of people, which I think people think it'd be the opposite. But when it's a huge collaboration, you have a ton of people working together. You feel like a team and a community that you can go, okay, we all have each other's backs. When I'm doing my own short film, I am the sole decision maker. Even though it was a collaborative process with the DP and with the actors, and we worked on things, it really was, and the writer and Tia, it was an idea that I pitched. It was, I was visually bringing it to life from what was in my head and telling people what I wanted, and they were just saying what would and wouldn't work, how we would achieve certain things, how that would be doable. And so it was probably the most fear was just, am I making the right decisions the entire way through directing my short film? It just didn't know. And I just kept moving forward, and I was like, okay. So yeah, that was probably the most fear. Between directing a Station 19 episode and your short film, what did you like the most and why? I liked it for different reasons. Station 19, finally, it was the thing I'd been after for so long. It was the carrot at the end of the stick. I'd been trying to get an episode for 4 years by the time I got an episode. So it was, I'm trying to make sure I get it right. It's like, what did I like most? I don't know. And it felt great to be part of the collaborative process. It felt like everything I'd been waiting for. So I liked it the most probably because of that, there was much more anxiety and much more sleepless nights when I was doing the short film. Again, just because everything was on my shoulders. It was a lot. And the subject matter was so heavy. And I was bankrolling the whole thing. So there's a lot more things about it that made it a little less enjoyable because of the elements of stress that were added to it. Whereas on Station 19, I really got to just be a director. So yeah, I would say Station 19. Best advice for not letting anxiety get in the way of facing fears. The anxiety is going to be there. I mean, in my experience, I can do breathing exercises. I can meditate. I can, put my hand on my heart, and like, I can do all the things that I need to. I can journal. I can try to minimize anxiety. But when the time comes for certain things, or that moment that you have to face it, it's going to be there for me, at least in my experience. It's not going to go away. It's not going to just miraculously be like, there's no anxiety. Like, it's there. And it's always going to be there. And I think it's important to kind of look at it as like, okay, anxiety as a person over here, let's like figure this out. How are we going to work together? Like, I know personally, before I would go into auditions, when they used to be in the room, I used to get a ton of anxiety before I walked in the room, like a ton. To the point where I had to learn like techniques of like pushing up against a wall. But one of the things I learned when I finally gave into it and I realized I wasn't going to beat the anxiety was, I was like, okay, for me, even though I might be tired that morning, I don't drink coffee, because I'm like, all of a sudden, right before the audition, anxiety, I know, all the adrenaline, whatever those other hormones that are going through my body are going to kick in. And if I have caffeine in my system as well, it's amplified. So it really helped me personally to go, okay, anxiety isn't going anywhere, but if I can, not minimize the effects of the anxiety, that helps. So anxiety is not going away, unfortunately. If anyone has advice on how to get rid of anxiety, I would love to hear it. I've never been able to get rid of anxiety. I'm trying to make sure. Don't run away from anxiety, just try to understand it. Let's see. What do you tell yourself when facing something that scares you, but still have to take it on? What do I tell myself? I think kind of what I said earlier, which is same with directing, like as much time and energy and money it took for me to get to directing, I would have regretted if I didn't try. I would have regretted it. And I don't know what my directing career is going to be. I'm shadowing again up on Fire Country, which is great, but I don't know. I'm plugging away in every possible way that I can, but you just don't know what the future is going to hold. But I think, I think you just have to do it. I think I do it because I'm more afraid of regretting not doing it. I'm more afraid of not living than I am living, as scary as really living can be. I think that's a part of it. And then I think someone said to me once, which was, if something scares you, that's good. And I think that's what's another part of living that I really love, is I love evolving and I love the challenges of life. Every time I've been faced with a challenge, and sometimes the challenges are really hard. Sometimes the challenges challenge me and who I am and my beliefs and my outlook on life, or having to recognize the weaknesses I have or the blind spots I have. And so I think there's something to be said about, if it scares you, why does it scare you? I think is important to kind of recognize too. But I like that challenge. I like the challenge of like, maybe I won't when I'm older. Maybe there'll be a part at the certain age I get to where I finally go, you know what? I don't want to be challenged anymore. I'm tired. It's like eventually you hit that moment where you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like you're like, I'm good. I learned what I needed to in life. Someone also said anxiety means it's important to you. There was interesting part too. Someone said to me is the human brain, I don't know if this is true, but the human brain doesn't know the difference between nervousness and excitement. Nervousness, I obviously equate more to anxiety, but But I don't know what the truth is to that, but I really like that, simply because for me, if I can reframe things, like reframing the word failure, if I can reframe, okay, I'm not nervous, I'm excited about this thing. It helps kind of, okay, I'm gonna put a smile on my face and I'm like, okay, I'm more excited than I am nervous. I think it's important to try to reframe that as well. What's the first thing you do when considering a scene and how it should look? I go with my gut instinct first, always when I read. It's different for my short film and for Station 19 episode. For the Station 19, I was given a script. I didn't know what it was going to be, so I read it the first time, and just like an actor, I want to make notes. How do I visualize it the first time I read it? What is the arcs I'm seeing in these? And right off the bat, my gut instinct about all those things. What's the theme? What are we trying to convey? So for me, I think it's not about, I know this question was interesting because it says, what's the first thing you do when considering a scene? You really have to consider the whole episode, in my personal opinion. You're not just doing it scene by scene. You then can go through and say, from a technical standpoint, what scenes make the most sense logistically with certain elements. And that, I think, is where it comes in later. Even with my short film, certain things of like, I see it this way, but guess what? We can't do it that way because we don't have the space, or we can't get that piece of equipment that allows us to do that shot. Like, you start dealing with logistics after, but I think the actual imagery I see of a scene is something that is my gut first. And I try to stick to that and I try to achieve that. But what I loved about, Station 19 is that because it's collaborative, someone else could come up with a better idea. And what's great is the best idea wins. And I truly believe that. So it's not really considering a scene. It's a vaguer answer. It's considering a whole episode and how all the scenes tie together. I actually am someone who really enjoys transitions and trying to really make everything seem like it's flowing and not clunky. And so one scene leads to the next, and what's the arc and all that kind of stuff. So it's more about as a whole, but I would say my gut is where I go first and listen to my instincts. I've been on sets for a very, very long time. I've been reading scripts for a very, very long time. That doesn't make me an expert, but I definitely have instincts that are instilled in me because of all those years of doing this. Let's see. What initially made you want to direct? Interesting question. So, I didn't know. I didn't know I wanted to direct, is the honest answer. I didn't think it was a possibility, to be honest. I'd never really seen a ton of female directors till working in Shondaland, and usually if I did, they were in comedies. We're talking even the Lifetime movies I did, like everything was always a male director. So many projects, basically my whole life were male. I cannot, when I was a kid, remember a female director. And so it was never a thought that crossed my mind that I could do it. But what's interesting is that I would always, as an actor, I hated going back to my trailer. Or just sitting in cast holding in the green room. I love sitting at what they call Video Village, which is where the monitors are. I love sitting with the camera operators. I have an endless amount of photos of me, holding a Steadicam, operating a crane, sitting behind a camera to try to figure out framing. I would sit there and just hang out with the entire camera crew and just kind of ask a million questions about lenses and equipment and how does this work. And what's crazy is if you're curious about something, just asking questions, people were so willing to just answer every and all questions, every question and all questions that I had, constantly, to the point where do you want to do a shot? Do you want to, and you just learn a lot by doing that. So I didn't realize though that that's what that meant. I just thought, I was curious and I wanted to know. And it wasn't until Paris Barclay, our directing producer of Station 19, was like, do you want to direct? And just that sentence, I kind of was like, and I didn't say no. I said, yeah, I would love to. I just don't know how or what, where. I stumbled, I didn't know. And it was interesting. And then he pointed me in all the right directions. He was like, well, you need to start shadowing. I recommend these books. And you need to shoot a short film. And he said you need to talk to Christopher Knopf about if you want to direct on the show. So, and she very much stipulated then that I needed to direct a short film. So that was kind of like the initiation, something that had to happen. So yeah, I didn't know I wanted to direct, or I didn't have this desire to direct because I didn't really think it was a possibility. I will say for those out there that want to direct now, start using your iPhone, start directing as much as you can. Learn about the art of filmmaking, framing, lighting sources. I know that like cinematography is the lighting and stuff that I've heard a lot of directors say like, you don't need to worry about that. I like knowing, not because I want to have necessarily a say, but it helps me in my head when we were talking about earlier about having those gut instincts about a scene and how I want to shoot it. If I have the knowledge about what is and isn't possible from an actual execution standpoint, which is, the camera, the lights and stuff, what can we accomplish in this space with what equipment? I think having that knowledge just helps me be able to be more realistic about the shots I want to execute. So anyways, it's a very long answer to this because it was, I guess Paris is the one that initially got me to want to direct. I think it was always in me. I just didn't know because I didn't know it was an option. I truly love the collaborative process of directing. I love the art of storytelling. And as an actor, you're kind of in one single lane. It's interesting because actors really just do one job and we get a lot of credit. There's so many people on set doing multiple jobs or jobs that in my opinion, I consider way more important. But we're the face, so we get all the credit. But there's a lot more that goes on than just what actors do. We come to set, we hit our mark, we say our lines that we didn't even write. So I just think it's I love it. I love directing. I think it's a challenge that I want to continue to keep doing, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, I guess it was always in me, but Paris is the one that kickstarted it by just asking that simple question. So you never know. You never know what one simple question to someone is going to do to change their lives. If I could go back and change one thing about my short film, would I? And if so, what would it be? Gosh, yes. When we talk more about Herd, I can definitely talk more about this as well. But yes, there's things I definitely would change about it. I think that's anyone and everyone. I even just had to go through and basically skim all 7 seasons of Station 19. And there's so many scenes that I realized that I would have done differently now in hindsight. So you're always with art, and it's not really done better. I don't like to say better, but just done differently, because that was an interpretation at the time in my life. That was an interpretation of my short film at the time. There's definitely things I would change. I think the biggest thing though that I would change is less about the story of Herd and more about the music. I really struggled with the music and the sound design, and I'm still not happy with it. It was probably my weakest part of my directing style, is figuring out how to verbalize myself. When I shadowed so many directors, a lot of what they were using music-wise was in a catalog, and a lot of the sound made sense because it's firefighting and things like that. And when I went in and had to do it for my short film, the sound design and the music was so much harder because I again had full control and everything at my fingertips. It wasn't as much of like, this is our lane, we're staying in it. So I would change the music and the sound design for sure. What's one thing about Herd that you're most proud of? That I did it, that I put it out there, that I was vulnerable enough to put it out there. There was definitely moments where I was like, do I release this? I even contemplated fixing all the music before I released it. And I was like, if I don't press post to YouTube now, I'm never going to do it. And I just had to do it. And I'm so proud that I did. And now I just need to talk more about it. But I'm really proud that it's out there. I'm really proud that I did it. I put my mind to something and I did it, regardless of being shut down twice, regardless of a pandemic, regardless of every obstacle and hurdle that I faced. I mean, literally our last location we were filming at, the AC just went down on the day, and it was like a hot day in the summer. And like everything that could possibly go wrong was kind of going wrong. So I'm just proud that I did it. What is one unexpected thing you've learned about yourself as a director? I'm someone that like I said, even though when I first read a script, it's my gut that I go with, I then can get very technical and very logistical after that. And then on the day, even though I know it's what I have to do, I just need to keep practicing it. Is you really have to let go, let the actors kind of take over, and what are they bringing? And really, I want to get better at keeping my eye open, because, and I get it, it might take a while as a first-time director, is I have a plan. I know what my shots are going to be, so I need to check the box and get my shots. But sometimes you show up on set and you're like, oh my God, what happened behind us, this is beautiful, let's do that. Or this framing actually works out way better, let's do that. I think I would love to be able to get to that point where I'm at such a place of calm and ease that I can keep my eyes open to kind of those happy things that happen, happy unplanned things that happen on the day. So that's, I guess, unexpected that I've learned about myself, is that I didn't think I was, which is crazy, anyone that knows me, that I didn't think I was as like strict to my shot list as I am. But I guess that's just me, and I should have realized that. But I guess I was a little, because with acting, I let it go. Between action and cut, I don't think about what I plan to do. And I would like to get to a place of that with directing, but I thought I would be more like that. And so I learned that I need to get more like that with directing. How do you even begin with the process of directing a short film? So Paris recommended, I forgot the big blue book. What is it called? The other one's called How to Make a Short Film. It's a red book. And then the big blue one is a very common one. He's like, read these 2 books. And I read those 2, and being on sets my whole life, I got a lot of it very easily. But I think for anyone that's not been on sets, they are absolutely beneficial to kickstarting that. And then when it talks about like to begin the process of directing a short, like, what are you doing the short film for? If you're in school, you're doing it because it's part of your assignment or requirement in school. But if you're just somebody who's like, I just want to do a short film to do a short film, like, there's no real process, which can sometimes be like scary and overwhelming. It's just like, pick up a phone and start doing stuff. Get to mingle with people. There's backstage.com is a huge one I always recommend for people. It's like a site where they post things. A lot of times it's like student films, USC student films, UCLA student films, and you can either be an actor or sign up to do something in those films that might help. And so I think, that's like, I'm trying to think of how the process begins. Like, reading books helps, but then you just have to start acting on it. And I had the privilege to have a really good crew and team, and I had a very singular focus and thing I was trying to achieve, because I needed this short film to be able to direct. And so I think that made the process a little bit more streamlined, because I knew what it was. I think everyone's going to be different, but if you're someone who just wants to get into directing, just start shooting stuff. Look into film festivals. Look at local film festivals. Go to a local film festival. That's a great one. Just start going to local film festivals and meet creatives and meet directors, and because that's usually who goes to all those film festivals, as directors are almost a guarantee they're going to be there, and talk to them and ask their story. And I'm telling you, people 90% of the time are willing to really give you a ton of information and point you in the right direction. Someone asked my quote. I'll tell you where my quote is later. Let's see. Most memorable shadowing experience. There's so many good shadowing experiences and memorable ones. My most memorable, probably because it's the most recent though too, but I had so much. No, it might just be the most memorable, is shadowing on Fire Country, because I had no real, there is an anxiety around shadowing, and you're shadowing and watching your fellow cast members, and you're shadowing and watching, when I did Grey's Anatomy, people I know, you're around this kind of world of people you know. And there's more anxiety around that because, you're basically putting on a different hat that people aren't used to seeing you in, and you're trying to not get in anyone's way, and the personalities of people. So okay, or they want to be friendly with you and you're shadowing. You're like, no, don't talk to me, I'm trying to shadow. So there was more anxiety around shadowing on station or Grays, whereas shadowing on Fire Country was really fun. It was harder in a lot of ways because I was running around in the elements, in the cold and in the rain of Vancouver, and trying my best to stay up to date and everything, and living out of a hotel, and there were elements that made it more difficult, and not knowing the lay of the land. I had to show up. Talk about scary. I had to show up, and I remember day one I just went back to my hotel and cried. And then day 2 I showed up and I walked into every single person's office and I was like, okay, because no one was really giving me direction as to like how to shadow on that show. And so I woke up the next day and I was like, nope. And I walked into every office and I was like, hey, can I have this? Hey, can I have the floor plans? Hey, can I have this? Hey, can I have that? And they probably thought I was crazy, but it ended up basically kickstarting a really, really phenomenal shadowing experience that I absolutely loved. So yeah, I think that that's my most memorable shadowing experience. I'm going back up there again. I hope it's not as cold as it was last time. It will be. Did you find the process easier or harder directing on a show you're an actor in? It's more complicated when you're an actor on it for a lot of reasons. I do not like it. I cannot wait to be able to direct on something I'm not acting in. And it's interesting because the easiest gateway for actors to direct is on shows they're on. But it's hard. Your brain is having to work both sides. Those scenes I had to do when I was actually in them on Station 19, I can rewatch my episode and I know the only one that I was able to completely not be a director in was the one where I yelled at that guy in the rain. I knew I had to, in order to give that speech, I knew I had to like turn off directing. But every other scene, I see it on my face and I'm like, okay, because I call action, or the AD would call action, and then I would call cut when we were done with the scene, and I'd run back and look at the monitors. And so it was stressful. It was stressful. It was stressful. It was harder. Obviously giving direction to your fellow peers, your fellow cast members is not easy, but everyone really took it well. Like, that went great. It's not like they needed a ton of direction. The cast is very talented. So that was not as much scary in regards to like, oh God, I'm going to get somebody who like I don't respect or I don't think is good, and I'm going to have to give them notes that I don't want to give them. Like, I knew that wasn't going to happen, but it was just giving direction at all. Like, oh, I love the way you did this. Let's try this version. But it actually ended up being way easier than I realized. So yeah, I find it much easier when you're not an actor on the show, and I would prefer to not be an actor in any of the things I direct. That's why I wasn't in my short film. How do you best work with criticism? Criticism is hard. I mean, criticism, and I read something recently and I want to do more. I'm talking so much and I only have 12 more minutes. Criticism is hard. I read something recently where they say there's no such thing as constructive criticism, which really fascinated me, and I want to read up more on it. And so, yeah, the criticism, it's weird. Criticism in what sense? Like, if you're just telling me you don't like my performance, how is, like, I don't need to know that. Like, if you have a strong opinion because something I did was offensive or something I did, it very rarely do you feel that there's a justification behind just telling someone like that's bad. Like, what are you going to gain from that? If you're a family or a friend and you're trying to tell somebody like, hey, listen, I think you should take classes, or I think you should do this because like, your acting could be better, it could be different. I think you need to practice more, whatever. I get that, like, maybe that's what they consider constructive. Like, you're trying to give someone advice to help them be better at something. But art is so interpretive. Like, there's even talking about actors, like some actors that win tons of awards, might not think are that great. And then other people are like, they're amazing. They're the best thing since sliced bread. Like, it's all interpretive. And I realize that. I'm not going to walk up to the person and be like, I don't think you're that great. Criticism is an interesting one. Criticism in what sense? And I think that word criticism really fascinates me, and I'd love to know more about it because, I don't know, like even critics in general for movies, like I look at movie reviews before I see it, but I also try to take it with a grain of salt because I'm like, that's this critic's interpretation of that movie. And then I would go, it's like sometimes on Rotten Tomatoes, like you see that like the critics review of it is horrible and the audience's is amazing. Like, not everyone needs everything to be like critically acclaimed or to fit some sort of box. So yeah, I don't know. That's like, how do you work with criticism? I don't know. It depends what it is. Like, are you trying to point me in a different direction so that I can give a better performance or a more nuanced performance or add a layer into my performance that I wasn't thinking of? Like the best notes, and I don't call those criticism, but the best notes from a director is when they're like, add this. Like they say one thing and you're like, oh my God, that changes the whole performance. I love it. But yeah, I just don't like criticism for what sake? Like why? Just saying something's bad, get better, do better is not really productive. So yeah, I work well with, I'm trying to think of another idea, like Found. When I did Found, I was calling up, the creator, and I was like, is this working? I reached out to her and she said to me, Danielle, if it wasn't, yes, it's working. If it wasn't working, trust me, I would let you know. And that's maybe like a criticism that I could have, if I had been going in the wrong direction playing that character, I could have gotten a call saying, hey, listen, we need you to add more of this in there. We need you to do more of this. We need to do more of that. And I love that stuff because I look at that as part of the creative process. I'd be like, oh, okay, darn it, I'm doing it wrong. Okay, sure. What do you want me to do? Like, that's just part of art. So yeah, criticism is interesting. That could be a whole conversation about criticism. How do you take care of yourself emotionally when working on deep storylines? Oof, that's a hard one. I've talked about this before. A lot of times with doing really dark stuff, like season 6, I was rewatching that and I was in such a dark place for most of that season because my character arc a lot of times you notice on network television, something happens and it gets resolved pretty quickly. Maya, from episode 1 all the way through to 8, was still basically struggling, solving things, going through, emotional turmoil, completely, getting 5150. Like, she hit rock bottom. And that went on for episodes. Usually you can do a scene in an episode, or it's an emotion because something happened and you can feel it and you can get there and then you can snap out of it with what I like to do, go to dinner with friends, eat some chocolate, like something that puts a smile on my face to really get me out of that headspace. But that was hard. Sorry, did it freeze? But anyways, that was hard to go through in season 6. That was hard to go through because it felt like it was never ending. I couldn't get out of it. And it affects everything. It affects your day-to-day life. You're just sad all the time. So that was really tough. As rewarding as it was as an actor, it was really tough to do, and it was hard to get out of those headspaces. So I was very happy when that storyline was on the other side of it. And then if you notice, like, Maya switches very much to like being funny and smiling all the time. And like, I actually went a little too extreme because I was so happy to not be in that anymore. But it's, some actors really go deep and it's almost impossible to get out of. You've seen historically actors do that. It's a process. Everyone's is different, but for me, it's much easier when it's just like, if it's just an episode or just a couple scenes, it's easy. Now you get into it, you go there and you can get out of it pretty quickly. It's just hard when it lingers. Like movies, if you're having to do something really tough for an entire film and the film is being shot over 4 months, those can be really hard. But yeah, the question was, how do I take care of myself? Any way possible. Yummy food, working out, massages, the things that make me happy. If that's knitting or pottery for you, like whatever makes you happy, that's what helps you get out of those funks, even as an actor. Best piece of advice I've received from shadowing a director. I think it probably was, I've received a lot of advice and a lot of sound and amazing and wonderful advice that I'll carry with me throughout my entire career. But I think Paris really said to me, which is something I already knew, but I think it's so important to pass on to anyone who's on set in general, is every single person in set needs to feel important, that their job is important, even though it might not be the most important thing if the binder is green or blue. And he said this example. You have to make them feel like it's important. Never say to someone, I don't care. Because it's so easy when you're directing and you're worrying about actors and casting and storyline and script changes and locations and all these elements, that when someone comes at you and they're like, hey, so we have these 3 backpacks for this character. Which backpack do you like for that person? You're like, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It matters to that person. And even though I know that, those little words really matter because people to feel like their jobs are important, regardless if they are not as important as, say, the location at that exact moment, what you're stressing about, because those little things are important. What is on camera is important. So he basically just taught me never say I don't care or it doesn't matter to anybody when they bring you an idea or some piece of element that you have to make a decision on. So how do I balance technique and intuition as a director? I haven't figured that out yet. My intuition comes in first. I think, like I said, I'm sounding like a broken record. Then technique takes over. Logistics and all those kind of elements, and making sure we have the to-do list and we're checking the boxes, that all then kind of takes over. So I'm trying to make sure that even though I go from intuition to technique, to go back to intuition on the day. I really would love to do that. And it's a hard balance because you're using both sides of your brain. And with network television directing, it moves fast. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made in a split second, and there's a lot. There's just a lot over a very short period of time. So yeah, I would like it. I haven't figured out that balance yet. How has your way of directing changed over the years? Well, I've only directed 2 things. So someone said to me once, like, what's your directing style? I was like, I have no idea. I think, well, I will say my directing style is I like movement. I love action, which is something I realized watching or doing Station 19 is I really, really prefer the action, fast-paced, high intensity type scenes. I love doing that. I think that's why I gravitate towards Catherine Bigelow so much, because, she's very good at that. So yeah, I don't know if it's changed or if I'm trying to figure out what I'm good at, where I'm not as strong, those type of things. So I don't know if I should say, how has my directing changed? I've only gotten 2. Stay tuned, I'll let you know. And thank you guys also so much. So many people, you didn't submit questions, but you did give me so much praise for my Station 19 episode. And I should say, the way I should word that is the Station 19 episode I directed. It's not mine. The Station 19 episode I directed, and the short film. I really thank you guys so much for saying you liked it. I rewatched both recently, and I have tons of notes and tons of things I would do differently, but I'm really proud of what I was able to accomplish. And so yeah, I faced my fears, and I have no regrets. They were all learning lessons that I'm so grateful to be carrying on with me into the future. I'm going to go through some questions real quick, and then I'll end with a quote, and then I have to go because I do have to go to an audition. Let's see. You guys, I'm not going to answer questions that are not about this specific thing. Kaylee, you do not need to do an apology. You're fine. Love you. You're good. I said I wouldn't answer things that are off topic, and now look at what I'm doing. Sorry. I'm trying, and then let's see. Any questions? I love all the other questions, but I'm just trying to stay focused on the topic. That's a great question. How did you balance trusting your instincts with the fear of making mistakes? Mistakes are going to happen. What's great, I think why Station 19 was essentially more enjoyable in a sense, or less stressful, is it's harder to make a mistake when there's 300 people helping you. We are working as a team, all of us. And so it's almost like there was such a relief doing Station 19, because I was like, oh, I can't really make a mistake. I mean, there's definitely creative choices I would have done differently, and I have the final say in things, and a lot of things. Not everything. I mean, once I hand off my director's cut, what actually aired was different than my cut. But not much different, but slightly different. And so, you can make mistakes, but a lot of times it's almost impossible to really screw something up in network television. I don't, again, just like failures, it's like I don't really look at it as a mistake, more of like, I would do that differently. What did I learn from that? What was I thinking when I made that decision? Why did I make that decision? So yeah, I try not to look at them as mistakes again. Look at them as learning, as lessons to be learned. I would love to direct an episode of Grey's. Here's the thing. They have a lot, this show's been on a long time. They have a lot of set directors. I shadowed over there. I shadowed Debbie Allen. I would love the opportunity, but there's a lot of people, to quote Debbie, in line in front of me. So if the show goes another 5 years, maybe, or if a director starts, there's also some older directors that might retire. So it's, if those spots open, but I am not high on the list of people they're going to hire right away. I'm afraid to make changes because I'm worried things might end up worse in the end. It's interesting you say that. I'm not sure worse. Worse in what way? It's hard. I don't really think I've ever had a thing that's gone worse. I definitely do look back, and there's a couple things that I go, if I had done this or this, would my career be different? And it probably would be. And through therapy and learning that you did your best, I think this whole, it would be worse. Because it's not worse. I'm very grateful and happy with the life I live. Could it have been different? Yeah, probably. If I made some different decisions. So I think don't think of that. Also, stop thinking of the end goal. Stop thinking of what might happen. If something is exciting you and something is you want to do something, go for it. And what will be will be. You will learn something from it. But you just take a second, listen to your gut, and go for it. I would say probably the things that I did that I would go back and go, oh, that really changed the course of my life. I can't change them. I was doing the best in that moment, and probably I wasn't really thinking at all when I made some of those decisions. So take the time, think about it. If you really do the work and think about what it is you're doing, I think you're not going to end up worse. It's my opinion. Yes, I would love to direct an episode of Law & Order. Would I rather direct a TV show, movie, or short film in the future? I think I'm good with short films. I mean, it's fun to do short films, but they're a lot of work and not a lot of payoff. So there's that. And when it comes, sorry, someone just entered my house. My phone just let me know. So yeah, there's that. Television is where really what I love. I love television. I love the art of it. I love the fast pace of it. Movies are a lot of heart, and I love them and I appreciate them, but you put a lot into it and you just don't know what's going to happen with it. And I just don't like that. I don't enjoy that. So I would say TV is always going to be my thing. Okay, I do have to go. Making sure any other last little one. Oh, someone just said I'll end with this. They just directed a short film. You Got This. Yeah, I'm just excited for you. Congratulations. And you did it. You did it. Celebrate the fact that you did it. Go out. My advice right now is go and celebrate the fact that you did it. Then sit down and make a list of the things you need to do next. When you make a short film, it's your calling card at first when you're starting as a director. So take that calling card, put it out there in the universe on Vimeo, on YouTube. But before you do that, if you're doing the film festivals, do the film festivals, submit. Don't be upset when you don't get in. I didn't get into a ton. Just getting into a couple is a win. And put it out there in the world and start engaging with people. Go to those film festivals. You'll meet so many other creatives. I'm so proud of you. You did it. Congratulations. I have to go now. And on the quote is, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. So go out there, frame your thoughts around failure, and take on the world with excitement. And this has been awesome again. Sorry, I feel like my coffee never really hit properly. And I stuttered a lot, but thank you guys for all of this. I will see you guys next. Is next Wednesday Christmas Eve? Oh my goodness. I will see you guys, not sure which Wednesday, but I'll see you guys in a future Wednesday. Sending you tons of love, and I hope you guys are all looking forward to the holiday season. Everyone's saying good luck. Thanks, guys. Wish me luck. Okay. Mwah. Bye.